The all-new Peugeot 3008 has gotten so much attention, and yeah, you can explain why, because of this expressive exterior, the unique interior, and also the price proposition, recently as the electric version. Today it is about the petrol version. It's a mild hybrid petrol version, and the question is, should you rather go still for the petrol version and not for the electric Peugeot 3008? And if you compare this one to the Volkswagen Tiguan, which is more expensive, but is the price difference justified? And maybe you also heard that recently the 5008 was launched. That's basically this vehicle with a little bit longer wheelbase and additional seats. So many things to talk about this vehicle. I'll fill you in with all of that, and we drive the petrol here today with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with this very expressive front design. Look at that here, also this dot structure in the front grille, and also really beautiful, these lion claws as the daytime running light. It also looks pretty cool when you hit the turning indicators or the hazard lights, then this part is being replaced. Obsession blue is the vehicle color for today. Yeah, I would say like a Thomas blue in a little bit turquoise style or something. I think it's a very beautiful color. The car looks stunning on the exterior, and most of you recently also have agreed that it looks really cool on the exterior. This is the Allure trim. That means we have the base LED lamps. With the GT line, this additional pack, you would get the matrix LED. They have made it a little bit simpler to configure the vehicle actually, but then again you're also stuck with something in the Allure trim. For example, Allure comes with 19-inch wheels. GT again would be a size bigger in 20-inch, but this is here the 19-inch, but this is size-wise totally fine, I would feel. GT rather than, yeah, I think when you want to go for the matrix LED, that would be the main reason to go for the GT, I feel, because 19 or 20-inch, you can live with both. Side profile, 4 meters 54 or 179 inches is the length, and the most expressive thing is here that it is, yeah, so unique here in this, almost looks like crossover coupe alike. Then you have this glass effect making a flying roof visually that looks really, really dramatic. And to the rear, more playing around with these tiger claw rear lamps, and they also look cool when the indicators are then set in, that they are activated on the side, for example, and really bulky on this lower end. Top speed difference, by the way, interesting here, the petrol version at 200 kilometers an hour VMAX, so that's like 125 miles an hour, whereas the electric versions are limited a little bit lower, 180 kilometers an hour, 112 miles per hour for the all-wheel drive electric version, and even 170 kilometers an hour for the front-wheel drive electric version. This is the typical PSA key fob, but it does the job actually. It feels quite good, I would say. Then here, look at that. It's very interesting here because there's like, you know, it almost looks frameless here. Very interesting here with the gaps and so on. And then here, yeah, it's not the best door closing sound, not the worst, so nothing special. Let's take it that way. Then inside of the doors, this is here somewhat softened on the top part with the structure, and then we have this beautiful fabric interior here, like a living room atmosphere, softer for your elbow. This is like, let's say, standard quality, and here all hardback then at the inside of the doors. And the thing is that what Peugeot achieves, here you can see, this is actually really one screen. This is option in the Allure or standard in the GT, that this is one 21-inch screen. Soon I'll, you know, show you how it looks like when everything is alive. Then it's typical super small steering wheel. Buttons on the steering wheel are hashtag capacitive BS. So these like one button field. It does give a feedback though. Same for the right side. And then these are the Allure fabric seats. Fabric on the inside, leather on the outside. So the seat itself is animal free, the steering wheel not. The GT would have microfiber where it has fabric. And we've seen both now. Both are nice, good ergonomics. I would say maybe the fabric stays a little bit cool in summer. The microfiber is a little bit cozier in winter, but both are nice. It's a matter of preference. And then the 189 6x2 has a lot of headroom here left. And yeah, I really like the seating position here. Also good for long-term comfort. Of course, we'll drive it more and more for you, and then also tell you more again at the end of the review. Things that are to criticize, for example, here the adjustment for the seat when you pump it up or down, and also here, look at that here. Brother, what's that? Here, the seat belt blocks kind of like the adjustment for the back part. And how should I turn that? And maybe in here with the other hand with the watch, and you break your wrist. We've recently seen it in the Mercedes V-Class, where it also has the same bad solution. Has no one ever tested that vehicle? I don't get it. Why do you go for these solutions? This is like really hard to control. And something I realized for a decade maybe, like with Citroën and Peugeot vehicles here. When you move the head restraints, that just feels cheap, you know. So when you then compare like a Volkswagen Tiguan, which is like way higher in the price, deals like these would be better there. However, then styling wise, like the seats and the material of the seats and like the looks from that one, that sometimes even looks better than some expensive vehicles. So we see both here actually, great things and things where you say like, okay, the lower price can be explained. Look at that cockpit. Styling wise, I love it, and I also make it come alive then here. So the scheme here for the Allure would indeed be that you have like a split screen as base, like two separate screens, and then optional this 21-inch screen. That would be standard for the GT. And look at that, how it's flying, also with an illumination here. That looks amazing. And rarely do we have that. A car here, as it stands here right now, which is like approximately like 35,000 pounds, 40,000 euros, and you come into the interior and say like, wow, look at that. For some, it just might be too much. And you say like, brother, you know, but I found it really inspiring. I think it's really cool. Even if some don't like it, it is unique, it is different. Look at that here, this shimmering effect. There will also be some ambient lighting in there then at night and so on. I think it is very well executed because it is so unique, and especially in that segment here. But how does it hold up for the quality and how practical is it? Here the glove box folds down smoothly. Look at how this is cut out here, like really wide. That's very interesting. And then this box here is, some said it's genius engineering because it kind of like, it disappears here in the side. Then again, from my driver's side, I have to open it like this, and then here, rather to be accessed from the passenger side, I would say. There's reasonable space underneath, definitely. Two USB-C chargers. This is also then for connecting the smartphone or charging only, 12-volt power supply. I guess the thought behind this is like, hey, when you put your smartphone there, do not touch it while driving. Maybe something like that. Then again, the inductive charging pad is here, like hidden in this cabin, I would call it like that. And it has no cooling, so the phone tends to overheat there indeed. Then I have some hotkeys right here, and the drive mode selector is there, and still haptic is here, the volume jog. Like to have that. Cup holders are adaptive, and then you have this beautiful fabric once again. Look at that, soft cushioning for your elbow. Well done. Split opening like we know it from Mercedes. And then there's lots of space underneath. Look at that, there's the split, and then even more space. Well, there's like hard pack underneath, but it's a lot of space. You can definitely use that here very well. The steering wheel, by the way, goes up and down, in and out. The thing is, like, the lowest part of the instruments is somewhat a little bit blocked by my view, but it's not too bad, I would say. So because I can see the speed here and so on, that's fine. So as for the driver POV, look at that. So how I would view it would be like this. So the lowest point here of the instruments is blocked, but I can always see the speed and so on. So that's like the most important thing. And although they don't use a head-up display because it's placed relatively high, so you can always see the speed in your line of sight, and that works. And then here the infotainment system works together with this lower unit right here. This is very interesting because then, for example, you can select ADAS, and then it switches here to a selection where I can, for example, activate or deactivate this speed warning. Oh, it was already deactivated. Strange. How does that come? And then here, for example, you click on climate, and then you go to the climate unit right there and can go plus and minus. However, yeah, this is all done in the screen, so it's not that easy to do. And you see here these animations, often it just takes too much time that things pop up again and so on. That's interesting. Would anyone use that? So I would feel they try to go for nice solutions here with these ones. I like these, and they can also be customized. But then again, how you change the climate and how quick everything is, there is definitely better on the market. Now Leah is showing us what you can expect from the light animations in the Allure pack, in this base version. Here underneath the screen there is the light, and here when she switches the driving modes, there you can see the eco mode has a rather bluish light. The normal mode is rather greenish, but you can maybe not see that well. In sport, basically turns it off. That's it. And then here for the inductive charging pad underneath, there you see the green lamp when it is charging. The full ambient lighting pad as you maybe seen on the last review, like here inside of the doors you would have it in the front, and also like here and everything. That is only available if you go for the GT version. Rear seats, hardback here inside of the doors. However, then you have the nice fabric insert here, and once again, no soft fabric or something on the inside of the rear doors. Doesn't open too wide. Isofix is on the outside seats each. It's with these zippers. You can access then here the Isofix anchor points for that. It's a clean solution. Then we also have the Allure fabric interior for the rear. It's actually a nice quality, also a high-grade leatherette. That's nice. And also the seating comfort is decent for itself. The headroom is totally fine with 189 or 62. Just the legroom here. It's not the largest SUV, of course. However, that it fits here with the recess and so on, it needs to be higher, the seat. You could do that, but you see, there's not much legroom left overall. But if you have enough legroom, maybe when you're not as tall as me, then it's seating-wise fine. However, I feel that the bolstering is a little bit stiffer than in the front. Then this middle part here can also be folded down separately, but this is nothing then for rear comfort. This is just like a ski hatch that you could also use this for the trunk folding. And down here we have a 12-volt power supply, and then there's USB-C charging twice. Trunk or boot is at 520 up to 1,480 liters. And the interesting thing is here, with the Allure trim, you get a manual hatch. You open it right here. With the GT trim, it would be an electric hatch. And the thing is, it is really massive, that hatch. Look at that, look at that, how high it is also. And there's like a lot of power with the gas struts. So when you have a low basement garage ceiling and it flops up like this, everything will be destroyed. So if you have a basement garage, you need the GT with the electric hatch, which you then can set to a certain level to open it at the maximum height. Other than that, it can also have an advantage if you want to like close it like gently or something when you push a lot of in there. Yeah, so that was always pro and con. The width here is 1 meter or 40 inches, and the normal length is I see it about 90 centimeters or 35 inches. You can see here with the luggage easily fits in. Underneath there is more space actually. You could also fit a replacement tire in there, and this whole thing can also be set a level lower like this. To fold the seats you have to go around. You cannot do it from here, and then you have a 2/3, 1/3 split. The total length here to the seats in front of us, there we go, it's like 160 in meters or 62 inches. Greetings from BMW, because to open the hood you pull this one here just twice. And then I don't have to search anything here, I can just fold that whole thing open like this. And this is here the 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, 136 horsepower, so kind of small indeed. 10.2 seconds is the acceleration figure to 1 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, so not really quick. Front-wheel drive only. Mild hybrid system, 48 volt. You can regenerate some energy at the at some scale, I would say. Interesting is that this one here is 7,000 euros cheaper than the all-electric version with the small battery, 71 kWh net, or the bigger one, 94 kWh net. In our other review we have already done, we have more focused on the electric version. This review here in the driving will of course focus here on the petrol engine. And the question is, yes, it is cheaper than the electric version. So in markets where it's not about subsidizing the EVs, this one will be way cheaper indeed. However, in other markets like Netherlands, Scandinavian countries and so on, the EV version will probably at the end of the day be cheaper due to the taxation, or maybe like even monthly taxation rules. So what makes more sense for you is more about your charging infrastructure, if you have it or not, or if you rather have a fuel station close by, and of course if the taxation in your respective country makes sense for the EV or not, and then you stick with the petrol. Which one would you go for? Tell me in the comments. Of course it's time to drive this one. Sport mode. Plop. That was like 50 to 106 kilometers an hour. You see, not the most powerful one, front wheel drive. 10.2 seconds is the acceleration figure from 0. And we do have a turbo here in the 3-cylinder, but also here when we're starting in from 100, let's go again. So you see, it's okay, you can live with that. but it's definitely not a powerful engine considering the size of the vehicle. Here the EV version will be quicker, definitely. However, this one here has a higher top speed in the petrol hybrid version, and yeah, it feels like a typical small petrol engine. The 3-cylinder sound actually is not too bad, and the noise insulation here at 136 kilometers an hour, like 80 miles an hour, is actually kind of decent. So it's actually nice, and especially in the front cockpit, I feel very much at home. I can very well see the speed there in the top part. Everything is clean and organized. The driving mode gives a little bit more throttle input. As for the steering, let's see if that changes much when I go back to the normal mode. Yeah, steering is a little bit lighter then, so in the sport mode it gives you more resistance. That's actually quite good, I like that. And in the eco mode you can even more stress than, you know, like there's a little bit less throttle response, for example, and you can try to do more eco driving, soon also more to that consumption and so on. And one very remarkable thing, greetings from Leah by the way, she's preparing lunch at this moment, so I had to drive alone at this moment, because she actually found out that the passenger seat is not that comfortable, and that is a remarkable thing. Oh, unlimited speed, let's try again, acceleration. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. So it's 150. It's still reasonably silent here on the interior, I like that. 170, so that's where the one electric version would also already stop. The other one is 180 kilometers an hour, this one here at 200 kilometers an hour, 125 miles an hour on the top speed, but it feels astonishingly good here also at higher speeds on the motorway. And also like the 19-inch wheel setup because it's more forgiving from suspension, and I think in general the suspension is doing a good job. It's not an adaptive suspension they have here, but they found a very nice setup. It's very comfortable, it evens out the waves. At the same time here at high Autobahn speeds, and that's why I'm also doing these higher speed tests to get a feeling for that, how good the suspension is actually developed. And it doesn't shake up much or something. At the same time, this Peugeot Cockpit, how they call it, gives you some spice, you know, so it's fun to drive it here, lane change. The car doesn't shake up much at all. It is a lot of fun to drive, and it feels, especially by that steering here, the car feels small. It feels smaller and more agile than it actually even is, and that's also a very good achievement, so I'm really happy with that. Back to the thing that Leah found out. Sorry, I had to interrupt that because of the acceleration possibility. The passenger seat is way firmer in the bolstering than the driver's seat. I was driving all the time, like, oh, okay, let's go on like a 5-hour road trip or something, no problem, let's do like 1,000 kilometers or something. And she's like, I'm not so sure, maybe I have to put like a pillow underneath or something. And I was like, why? On this seat's, you know, not comfortable. And then I really tried it in comparison, and they saved money with the passenger seat. Like, what the hell is this? So the driver's seat is way plusher in the so-called Einsitzhöhe. Listen and repeat, Einsitzhöhe, like the, you know, like the bolstering of the very first seating. And the passenger seat is way firmer. That's really a shame, I have to say, because the driver's seat is excellent, really excellent. No matter if you have it in fabric or in this microfiber GT trim, both really excellent. Love them. So yeah, that's the thing. But definitely I had to find it out when we were driving this car more and more and more and more. But I'm very surprised that usually, you know, like the one thing that sets the German premium manufacturers apart is usually how they perform on the German Autobahn. But this one here performs very well, and so it doesn't have to hide. And you know, if you compare it to the VW Tiguan, which is again, as we said, way more expensive, has this DCC, the adaptive suspension, which is more elaborated. But then again, if you add large wheels, you kind of even out that very positive effect and can make it also uncomfortable. So that's really the thing. Here, by the way, when letting go of the throttle, then you could see how also in this visualization I have recuperation. That's also part of this hybrid system. It's a mild hybrid, so it means it's not a large battery, but there will be always moments here on the motorway. Also go, for example, to the eco mode to be a little bit more saving. There will be always moments where you go off the throttle, and then you can gain back some energy. For example, here now, speed is being reduced from 100 to 80. Then once again, some energy is being gained back. And of course, it also helps in the city. Soon also show that to you. And then you can make it just a little bit more efficient, and also maybe have some like standing still, rolling moments where the combustion engine shuts off and so on. Here now, this S combination, really nice. It's a lot of fun to use this small steering wheel. I just love it, you know. And once again, considering for that price what the car is delivering, that is a very, very nice proposition. So that can only be applauded here. Of course, it feels a little bit artificial, that steering wheel doesn't give you the most natural feedback. It is better in the sport mode though, then it has more resistance. The seats are also good in the side bolstering. They keep you tight, no matter if you have the fabric or the microfiber seats. Yeah, it's really great. The only thing is that sometimes when getting on high-speed German Autobahn parts like this here, the engine acceleration is a little bit sluggish. So for being from a nice or good to a very good vehicle, I would wish for a little bit more power here in this petrol hybrid version. And considering that the charging infrastructure is a thing of the individual countries, so if you think of like southern European countries or something where you hardly have any charging infrastructure or no good taxational benefits, then customers there will rather go for the petrol hybrid than for the all-electric version. And then it would be even better if it had just a little bit more power. In the 3-cylinder, probably would have been better to have a 4-cylinder. But that's their technology. They set all the sails on 3 cylinders, also because of the EU emission law things and so on. Yeah, you can also understand the background as for that. And here, for example, then in city traffic with some stop and go or some traffic lights and so on. So you roll a little bit, then you get off the gas again, then you can see recuperation is being used. Then of course the smart hybrid system plays a role. Here I can see I have recuperated already a lot of energy, so the battery is actually almost full. So that's, for example, when you go from the motorway high speed and you get off the motorway, then you can also gain a lot back. But the question is, does it make a huge difference then at the end of the day? I would rather say not. So here we come also with motorway share and so on to 6.5 liters on 100 kilometers. Yeah, and then you have to say it doesn't make the big difference if it's now mild hybrid or not. It's a petrol engine, it's a small petrol engine. When you stress it too much, it will consume a lot. Other than that, on paper, it's always a little bit better. It's not dramatic as for the fuel consumption here. It's fine. It still works with the vehicle, although I would have wished for a little bit more power. But that it's mild hybrid, or if like the PR or marketing stuff tries to tell you that this is a hybrid, don't buy it. Not in the sense of don't buy the car, but don't buy what they're telling you with this is a hybrid. No, it's not a hybrid. It's a mild hybrid. There is still a difference. It's not a inbuilt hybrid with a large battery. Can't mistake it for that. So I always just want to point that one out. Still, in city traffic and so on, narrow situations, the whole vehicle performs very nicely because it's very agile, the steering is light, and it is rather short. It's really good to maneuver inside the city. So the entry price for this one here, 39,000 euros. I said like the EV version with the small battery, at least 7,000 euros more expensive, very interesting. But as it stands here right now, it just has some packages, so for like 4,000 euros or something, then you're at 43,000 euros or maybe like 35,000 pounds in the UK. This is a very good offering, very good deal. The GT package, if you want electric tailgate, if you want the matrix light, for example, and if you want the microfiber seats instead of the fabric seats, for the GT package, like 3,000 euros, like 1,500 pounds more. But still, it's a very attractive pricing, I feel. And especially then if we think about, first of all, the EV comparison. So if you don't have big taxation benefits, it might make sense for you still to go for the petrol hybrid here one. Although the EV will be more powerful in the punch, acceleration and so on. And then again, if you think about not only, like internally with the brand, but the last VW Tiguan test vehicle we had was at 70,000 euros in the price. So as it stands here right now, it's 27,000 euros cheaper than the Volkswagen Tiguan. And yes, maybe the head restraints are a little bit looser or something like that, But considering what car you get for that price, the Tiguan almost isn't competitive. The Tiguan is a nice car, it drives great, you know, no doubt about that. And the DCC, the adaptive suspension, is way more sophisticated than the simple suspension they have here. But still, at that price point, you almost have to go for this one instead of the Tiguan if you think like in logical and price relations and so on. The Nissan Qashqai, for example, was also somewhat in that price region, so that is also very interesting. And if you think about it, I want to look at that a little bit more in detail. Compare now the Nissan Qashqai and the VW Tiguan.